a lot of people said, oh, spoke wheels, we want to get. You don't need to do any of this. KTM has made some really strong alloys, including on the previous 390 Adventures. That kind of strength is available now. On a lighter feeling, more competent motorcycle, there's no need to spend any of this money. Right? So this bike is 2,91,000 ex-showroom, which makes it 4,000 rupees less than a Duke, which makes it about 70,000 rupees less than the S. And for 99.9% of people, you don't need more travel or off-road ability than this, unless you're serious about off-roading, in which case we will talk about the S's ability. And if you're a hardcore off-roader and you already have skills, then maybe the R is an even better option and is worth waiting for. If you're super hardcore and travel is not on your agenda, then maybe the Enduro R, which is the hardest core of this family of machines, that's the one that's worth waiting for.
And just background, back at Zig, we had tested the 250 Adventure, the previous generation, obviously, and the 390 Adventure in that similar environment. And that softer suspension made a big difference back then.
Did.
But the one thing that the Adventures used to love back then, what they were actually the best at, was not the technical and slow stuff. It was the faster roads and where you could just hammer it, right? And we ended up hitting so many things like rocks, boulders.
And it wouldn't be affected at all.
Nothing. So those alloys by default wouldn't be my hesitation for taking this bike and having fun.
Correct.
Every weekend as well. It's something that can really take a it can take a beating.
So yesterday when I hit some of the larger potholes that I did, and for science, right, we have to test these things out. You never felt like the tires or the rims were the first line of defense. You always just knew that it was the suspension that did most of the work. And yeah, it can feel sometimes like there is a lot of suspension stroke being consumed in the process of doing this, but it feels correct. It doesn't make you upset. And in normal riding, no matter how hard I tried, I have not been able to bottom either of the two folks out. So they do have genuine go into the air and land ability to a limited extent, which means if I were to jump a speed breaker on either of these two machines, you're not going to be able to bottom this motorcycle very easily. It is going to be off-road, largest jump, and you land it and then you'll bottom it. And then you're asking a lot from a motorcycle that, remember, again, I cannot emphasize this enough, travel motorcycle with off-road ability, not an off-road motorcycle with travel ability. The DNA of a dirt bike is in there, but that's not its primary job.
For the X,
For both, I think. Now, the advantage of having the 19-inch front wheel is this is an even more connected experience in the corners. So when I went to the twisties yesterday, there's a 25-kilometer stretch on my test route, which is a narrow, extremely well-surfaced road that just goes from twisty, little bit of a break, next twisty, little bit of a break, next twisty, and it's got all kinds of corners in it. I had a good time on the S. I think I had a better time on the X because I've got the same tires with the same level of grip. I've got a front end that turns a little bit sharper. Because you're sitting a little bit lower, the front end is a little bit lower, you feel like your lean angles are more accurate in your head. Whereas on the S, they're a little exaggerated. So you feel like, oh, I'm leaning a long way over, but you're actually not. So it came together as the idea saying, if I were to be out touring a lot, and the idea was I might hit an off-road stretch because on the way to the camp or hotel or whatever, there is a little bit of dirt. And I'm saying little bit being 5 kilometers to 35 kilometers. I think the X would just do it. And the X actually might feel better overall, especially if you're like, I don't want to mess with the suspension and the clickers. And if I lose my way, then having to look under the seat, find the setting. I don't want to go through any of this. Well, okay, the X will work. It will just work.
So a little bit of reference. I did ride the S. And one of the things that I first spoke to Shumi about was that it felt a bit too feedbacky for me, right? And in the sense that obviously in the head you're referencing to the Himalayan, and that's where he started this conversation as well. And to me, so this is the one time we did speak about the bikes briefly before we got in here. And immediately when I told him that, it's feeling like this, it's like, see, the X has a purpose. Because it's like, that's the, again, I'm using the same word, kinder motorcycle, but that is great for so many people because they just want to get on, ride, and in case something comes their way, be able to deal with it. And so the X sounds like the bike that's right for most people who are looking to get an adventure.
Correct. And the only electronics you have to mess with is ABS on, ABS off, and that's it.
Okay. No ride modes also?
There's no ride modes, there's no traction control, you're left to your own devices.
Okay.
And the few times that I did spin it up, which is because there was sand on the road or whatever, it's long enough and dirt bike enough to give you a sense of feeling rather than a sense of alarm, right? So I don't like my wheels out of line, and I've learned to deal with it over many years of riding now, but it's still something that I would rather not do. I would rather be secure and grippy. This is important to me because when I'm out touring, I'm always alone. And when I'm alone, I don't want these things to cause a mess up, right? It didn't feel like it was out of sorts. Right? So yesterday I hit a patch of dirt which must be, I don't know, 5 meters long. So I entered it while I was slightly turning. But when I picked up the bike, I was sideways for a bit. But at no point did it feel like I was doing something unusual for this product. The X was controlled and composed and happy. And I loved looking in my rearview mirror and seeing that big cloud of dust coming out of the wheels. And I was very happy to see that a giant cloud of dust happened.
Nice.
But the fact that I didn't have a sense of alarm is a very, very good sign.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, I would have a sense of, whoa. Like on a Himalayan, this is not a concern because it's such a long wheelbase. It takes a lot to provoke that motorcycle to be seriously out of shape.
Hi, it's me, Karthik, the one who's generally laughing and just going along with Shumi's jokes. You can catch all the jokes on the main channel. That's where they're all there. Right now, this is a bit of the serious conversation, but you can catch all the fun factor on the full video, which is on the MotorInc channel. So head out there and subscribe. And if you want more of these shorter clips, do subscribe to this channel as well.